What if I told you the most important power trio in American rock was born because a guitarist failed to show up? 3 terrified men played 7 encores opening for Cream that night. Then, one of them handed Pete Townshend the guitar rig that helped shape Won't Get Fooled Again. Gold records followed. Carnegie Hall. National acclaim. Then the man holding it all together mowed his lawn in Colorado, wondering if walking away had been a mistake. This is the Joe Walsh problem that James Gang couldn't survive. It was December 1971. James Gang was riding as high as any hard rock band in America. Back-to-back gold records, a sold-out performance at Carnegie Hall, FM radio spinning their songs from coast to coast. By every measure that mattered, they had arrived. Then Joe Walsh walked away. There was no screaming match, no tabloid scandal, no manager fired in a hotel hallway. Walsh simply looked at what he had built, looked at where he still wanted to go, and decided the two things no longer pointed in the same direction. He packed his guitar and headed to the mountains of Colorado to figure out his next move. The remaining members told the press the band would continue, and they meant it. They were professionals who had grinded their way up from the club circuit, and they were not ready to quit. But the rock community understood something the band was not yet ready to admit. James Gang had not just lost a guitarist, they had lost the reason people showed up. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That was not a story about betrayal or ego or even ambition. It was something quieter and more devastating. It was the story of how a band built its entire identity around one singular talent, and what happens when that talent finally outgrows the frame built to hold it. For a few incandescent years, James Gang had lightning in a bottle. But lightning was never meant to stay bottled forever. The James Gang came out of Cleveland, Ohio in 1966, born from the same blue-collar hunger that defined everything that city produced. Drummer Jim Fox had played in a local pop rock group called The Outsiders, but he wanted something heavier, something that felt more honest to the times. He started assembling a new outfit with that goal in mind. The band cycled through a few configurations in the early years, including a stretch with a local guitarist named Glenn Schwartz. When Schwartz departed, Fox held auditions for a replacement in January 1968. A young Joe Walsh came through the door. Walsh was lanky, a little awkward, with an instinct for the guitar that immediately separated him from anyone else in the room. Fox gave him the job. What happened next was pure accident, and accidents sometimes make history. In June 1968, the James Gang had been booked to open for Cream at the Grande Ballroom in Detroit, a prestigious slot that could have put them on the regional map. Then, their rhythm guitarist failed to show up. The band had a choice: cancel or play as a 3-piece. They played. Walsh, Fox, and bassist Tom Criss walked on stage that night, expecting the worst. Walsh later remembered the feeling clearly. He said they thought it would be their last job, that it was a make-or-break night, and they were deadly scared. 3 guys were trying to pull off what 5 normally did, and nobody was sure it would hold together. It held together. Then, it thrived. The crowd gave them multiple encores. They burned through their own material and ran out, forcing them to play Jimi Hendrix covers to fill the time, opening for Cream and finishing with Hendrix tunes. It was chaos, and it worked. Fox reflected on that evening years later, saying that it was not until that night that they realized how much Walsh could do. He was a pure guitar player who could also handle keyboards, sing, and write. The accident revealed the solution. They stayed a trio. By November 1969, Dale Peters had replaced Tom Criss on bass, completing the classic lineup: Walsh, Fox, and Peters. 3 men with instruments that could fill a room like a full orchestra. Under the production guidance of Bill Shimjick, they recorded the album that changed everything. James Gang Rides Again was released in 1970, climbed to number 20 on the charts, and earned the band's first gold certification. The single Funk Number 49 followed, cracking the top 60 on the Hot 100 and becoming the radio calling card that introduced millions of listeners to that unmistakable guitar tone.
Out all night and sleep all day.
Audiences were electrified. Critics took notice. Walsh's blend of virtuosity and humor, his ability to make a guitar sound like it was having a conversation with itself, was unlike anything else on the American hard rock scene. They were not trying to be British. They were not trying to be psychedelic. They were three guys from the industrial heartland playing music that was heavy and smart and built entirely on chemistry. But chemistry, as any scientist will tell you, is not always stable. And every standing ovation Walsh received was quietly planting the seeds of an imbalance nobody wanted to talk about yet. Success arrived fast, and it arrived loudly. But the louder it got, the more clearly one voice could be heard above all the others. Interviews began centering on Walsh. Press coverage focused on Walsh. The guitar work, the songwriting, the unpredictable humor, and the raw charisma on stage, it all pointed back to one person. The label executives and media outlets were not conspiring against Fox and Peters. They were simply following what the audiences were responding to. And the audiences were responding to Joe Walsh. The 1970 European tour, in which the James Gang opened for The Who during the Tommy Tour, intensified everything. Walsh and Pete Townshend struck up a friendship that would have lasting consequences for both of them. At some point during that tour, they made a gear trade that became one of the most quietly significant exchanges in rock history. Walsh gave Townshend an ARP 2600 synthesizer. In return, Townshend put together a rig, a 1957 Gretsch hollow body guitar in orange, a 1959 Fender Bandmaster amplifier with three 10-inch speakers, and an Edwards photocell volume pedal. Townshend later described what happened when he first plugged that combination together. He said he linked it all up, hit a chord, and it was just there. A sound from paradise. That exact rig became the foundation of the sound on Won't Get Fooled Again, one of the most recognizable guitar tones in rock history. Joe Walsh had handed Pete Townshend the keys to a masterpiece. But while Walsh was expanding his musical influence across the Atlantic, the James Gang was quietly contracting around him. Legal trouble added to the pressure. Their former manager filed a lawsuit seeking millions of dollars. The Maurice Ravel estate threatened action over the band's performance of Bolero on a track called The Bomber, a piece of litigation that eventually forced the song off subsequent pressings of the record entirely. And behind all the external noise, there was the physical reality of what it meant to be the only melodic instrument in a three-piece band. Every night, Walsh was responsible for carrying the full harmonic weight of the music. There was no second guitar to share the load, no keyboard to fill the space. He described the feeling directly, saying he was frustrated by just being the only melodic instrument in the group. The trio format had been their breakthrough. It was becoming his burden. By 1971, the fractures that had been forming in private began showing up in the music itself. The recording sessions for their third studio album, Thirds, exposed a creative divide that no amount of good intentions could paper over. Walsh was still delivering the goods. He brought in Walk Away, a hard-charging track with a riff that could cut through steel. He also contributed Midnight Man. But Fox and Peters were trying to expand their own roles as songwriters, which pulled the album in directions that did not always feel coherent. Country-flavored pieces sat next to riff-driven rock, and the seams showed. The story behind Walk Away told its own story about where Walsh's head was. In the studio, he described his approach to recording the song's guitar track with complete abandon. He put everything on 10, cranked the fuzz tone all the way up, and then performed what amounted to a one-man wrecking sequence on the instrument. He threw the guitar in the air, put it on the floor, and jumped on it. He noted, with some amusement, that he did not light it on fire because that could not be heard on an album and would have been stupid. But the impulse was there. The impulse to destroy the thing he was holding. Meanwhile, Walsh was wrestling with something more personal. Jim Fox recalled Walsh coming to rehearsal one day and expressing real doubt about his role as a frontman. Walsh reportedly said he had been thinking and was not sure he was up for the job of lead singer. He said he had an odd voice. He said he was not sure he was fooling anyone. From the outside, this seemed like false modesty from a man who was clearly thriving. But it was something more genuine than that. Walsh was beginning to feel the weight of a role that asked him to be everything at once: guitarist, vocalist, primary songwriter, and the face of a band whose identity had collapsed almost entirely into his. Their Carnegie Hall performance on May 15, 1971, captured the peak of what they could do together. The live album from that night hit number 27 on the charts and earned gold certification. It was a triumphant moment, the power trio at the summit giving everything they had to a room that gave it all back. But from that summit, Walsh could see the horizon clearly. He had been approached about solo opportunities. He was thinking about Colorado. He was thinking about what he might build if the walls were wider. By December of that year, the decision had been made. Walsh met with Fox and Peters and told them he was leaving. There was no explosion. Fox and Peters were not blindsided by the logic of it, even if they were hurt by the reality. Everyone in that room understood why, even if nobody was happy about it. Walsh himself later admitted the uncertainty that came with the choice. He recalled standing in his backyard in Boulder, mowing the lawn, wondering whether leaving the James Gang had been a good idea. He had not surfaced as a solo act yet. The gold records were in the rearview mirror, and there was nothing certain ahead. He left anyway, because the need to grow was stronger than the comfort of what was already built. The James Gang did not collapse immediately after Walsh walked out the door. Fox and Peters were determined musicians who refused to quit, and they moved quickly to rebuild. They expanded the lineup to a four-piece, bringing in Canadian singer Roy Kenner and guitarist Dominic Troiano. The new configuration had real power. Troiano was a skilled player with a heavier, funkier approach, and the resulting album, Straight Shooter, reached number 58 on the charts. A follow-up, Passin' Through, charted at number 72. These were respectable showings for a band that had just lost its primary creative engine. But respectable was not what the audience had come for. Fans who showed up to James Gang concerts were carrying memories of Walsh, his guitar, his grin, his tendency to turn a song sideways and somehow land it perfectly. Troiano was a fine player. He was not what those people were looking for, and everyone in the arena knew it. When Troiano departed in 1973, the replacement arrived with credentials that could not be questioned. Walsh himself made the recommendation. The guitarist he pointed to was Tommy Bolin, a 22-year-old from Sioux City, Iowa, who played with a fluency and inventiveness that genuinely rivaled anyone on the scene. Walsh heard something in Bolin that he recognized and respected, and he put his name behind the choice. But the audiences at the live shows were not interested in depth. They were interested in Joe Walsh. Bolin's brother Johnny later spoke about the shadow that followed Tommy everywhere he played. He described how Tommy would walk out on stage and hear people shouting for Walsh. Not for Tommy Bolin, for the man who had left 2 years earlier. This was what haunted him. The band had built its name on the specific combination of Walsh's guitar voice, Walsh's songs, and Walsh's presence. No replacement, regardless of ability, could reconstruct that combination. They could put a different guitarist in the slot, but they could not put a different James Gang in the market. By late 1974, Bolin had been offered a spot in Deep Purple, replacing Ritchie Blackmore. He took it, and the pattern repeated. Subsequent lineups with guitarist Richard Shack and vocalist Bubba Keith produced albums that barely registered commercially. By 1977, the James Gang officially dissolved. The problem had never been effort, it had never been talent, it had been identity, and identity could not be transferred. Joe Walsh moved to Colorado and started over, which for him meant starting up. He formed a new outfit called Barnstorm with drummer Joe Vitale and bass player Kenny Passarelli. The debut Barnstorm album was released in October 1972, a collection of music that showed Walsh expanding into territory the power trio format had never allowed. He was experimenting with layered guitars, keyboards, more complex arrangements. He was finally using all the rooms in the house. The follow-up, The Smoker You Drink, The Player You Get, was released in 1973 and earned gold certification. It produced the song that would become his solo calling card. Rocky Mountain Way was built on a riff that announced itself like a freight train coming through a mountain pass. It was distinctive, strange, immediately recognizable, and completely his. The song climbed into the top 25 on the Hot 100. In December 1975, he joined the Eagles, stepping in as the replacement for Bernie Leadon. The fit was immediate and significant. Walsh brought a harder edge to a band that had been softening toward country, and together they moved toward the sessions that would produce Hotel California. His guitar work on that album, the extended solo on the title track in particular, became some of the most celebrated playing of the era. The kid from Cleveland who had been the engine of a three-piece band was now standing at the center of one of the biggest acts in the world. Back in Ohio, Fox and Peters watched from a distance and held no bitterness. The chemistry between the three of them had been real, and it was the kind of thing that does not require daily proximity to survive. Over the years, there were occasional reunions, moments where the old dynamic reasserted itself. In July 1991, Walsh invited Fox and Peters to join him at a solo show, where they performed Funk Number 49 together. The crowd's reaction made clear that the song still carried its original voltage. The final reunion came on September 3rd, 2022, at Wembley Stadium in London. The occasion was a tribute concert for Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins, who had passed away earlier that year. Walsh, Fox, and Peters took the stage together. Decades dissolved. The three men who had opened for Cream at the Grand Ballroom in 1968, who had walked on as a trio by accident and walked off as something that would last a lifetime, played Funk Number 49 for an audience of tens of thousands. Pete Townshend, who had watched Walsh's trajectory from that 1970 European tour, offered perhaps the most fitting tribute years earlier. He said Walsh was the only one still out there, beard growing, doing what he had always done, still believing in it. Townsend said he got passion on stage, but he was not sure he believed the way Walsh believed. The James Gang was never going to last forever. The structural reality of what they had built made that almost mathematically certain. When one person carries the weight of a band's identity on his back, the day eventually comes when he has to set it down. Walsh set it down as gently as he could, and then he went and built something that proved the weight had been his all along. The songs remain. Funk Number 49 still sounded like a challenge. Walk Away still sounded like a man with somewhere urgent to be. And the story of three guys from Cleveland who sounded like 10 was still worth telling because it captured something true about music and ambition and the beautiful, fragile thing that happens when the right people find each other at exactly the right time. James Gang gave America something rare, a trio of working-class musicians who turned Cleveland grit into gold-certified rock history. They proved three instruments could shake an arena and move a generation. But they also revealed a harder truth, that some talents cannot be contained by the bands that discover them. Walsh outgrew the frame, and the frame could not survive without him. What's your memory of the James Gang? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into rock's greatest era.